Welcome back to Cheddar, everyone. We also want to welcome those of you listening to Cheddar on iHeartRadio. Good morning.
Welcome. Good morning, everyone.
As always, to all of you. Well, New York may have won Amazon's HQ2 lottery, but not everyone is thrilled that the tech giant is setting up shop in Long Island City. Joining us now to discuss is New York State Senator Michael Gianaris. Michael, it's great to have you with us. Senator, you just recently released actually a statement criticizing the deal that brought Amazon to New York. Why do you think Amazon's presence is not good for New Yorkers?
Well, in short, it's $3 billion in public subsidies for a company that is probably the last one that needs it. It's one of the most successful companies on earth. And the fact that we ended up in a bidding war to get them here is outrageous. We have a lot of needs in New York. Anyone that's been here knows the subways are in desperate need of fixing. Affordable housing is in crisis. We don't have enough school seats for our kids, and yet we managed to find $3 billion pretty easily to give to Jeff Bezos and Amazon. I think it's a horrible misplay in terms of policy at a time when we need those dollars elsewhere.
Senator, you initially were supportive of this before New York City was actually chosen. You did sign a letter hoping, expressing your support for Amazon coming to the state of New York, coming to New York City. Why the change in position, and what would make you go back to being supportive of this?
Well, there's no change in position. The letter simply said over a year ago that I think the jobs would be good in New York. Jobs are good and economic growth is good. But paying $3 billion for it was never something that was on the table. This entire negotiation was conducted in secret at Amazon's request. They forced all these bidders to sign non-disclosure agreements. So I had no involvement in the discussion of this deal or the outcome of it. And when the terms were made public and made available to everyone, I was among the first people to rise up and say this is a horrible idea for New York and we shouldn't go forward with it.
What would change your mind?
What would change my mind is taking the deal that was reached, to rip it to pieces, throw in the garbage, and reset the conversation.
Wow.
We should not be talking about granting $3 billion in incentives. By the way, it's going to end up being more by the time we're done. But we were part of a process that Amazon subjected the whole country to that turned out to be a great PR scam. They call this a headquarters. A headquarters is a center of operation. You don't get to have three of those, two on the East Coast, and still call it a headquarters. They were coming here just like Google came here with their 20,000 jobs, just like Facebook came here. By the way, Google and Facebook without any incentives, but because they created this beauty contest and everyone started throwing themselves at Amazon, they managed to get $3 billion in promises out of New York, and it's a huge mistake.
Michael, Senator, real concerns about how this is going to change the dynamics in Manhattan, but more specifically this Long Island City neighborhood. Affordable housing, tenants, a good amount of them live there, and with the average salary for an Amazon worker going to be just about $150,000, how does that change the dynamics, and does it lead to more inequality in that area?
Of course it does. This is one of the most rapidly developing and fastest growing parts of the country right now. There is already great growth in Long Island City, and we are seeing the consequences. Rents going through the roof, parents literally fighting with each other over kindergarten seats. These are the issues I deal with on a daily basis. The subways cannot accommodate the people. Just yesterday, there was a breakdown again in the subway system, and people were not allowed into the station. Our stations were closed for business in the morning rush. I don't know how we're supposed to add 25,000 people into a neighborhood that maybe has 60,000 people in it today and think it's not going to have a massive problem on the infrastructure and on housing. And the real estate speculation that's gone on just since this was announced has been insane. There are people riding around in vans every day with checkbooks, sight unseen, buying up property in Long Island City. Of course, that's going to have consequences for the rents in the area. There are already small businesses that were in the middle of negotiations to move to the neighborhood that the landlords have now pulled those contracts and refused to close on them because they expect they can get a lot more after this deal was announced. So it's already having those consequences.
What are the conversations happening in the Senate right now about how the state of New York fixes problems, and are they going to fix problems like the subway situation?
Well, I happen to sit on a task force that's charged with trying to help solve the MTA crisis in New York, and we are having trouble finding two nickels to rub together to invest in the subway system. And yet, when it comes to giving our money to Amazon, we can find that money pretty easily. So it's a pretty outrageous misstatement of our priorities and a pretty aggressive condemnation of the way we make decisions in New York, that we could find $3 billion for them, but we can't find half of that for a crumbling subway system.
Senator, just a few moments ago, you said that in order to get you on board, be supportive of this project would be to essentially rip up the deal and start negotiations over again. What are the chances that will actually happen?
It's a good question. The thing we're all poring over and trying to figure out right now is what approvals are necessary. The state and the city are moving mountains to avoid any approval other than their own. They have bypassed this normal city's land use process. But we do believe there are some things they still have to do at the state level, whether that's re-upping these incentive programs as part of the state budget, which would, of course, have to be approved by the legislature, or some boards that have approval over the economic development agencies in the state. They being the state, are suggesting they don't have to go through those as much as the rest of us think they do, and that's going to be something that may get litigated by the time we're done.
Senator, we also got to get your opinion on legalized marijuana, because Governor Cuomo here pushing to legalize this via a proposal next year. Is this something that you support?
I do. I think the time has come. Other states are already doing this. It's something that people are doing anyway. The fact that we would help decriminalize the usage, which is having a disproportionate impact on certain communities, would be beneficial, and of course, it would generate a tremendous amount of revenue for the state.
How do you think it should be regulated? Should it be regulated like tobacco here in New York?
Well, the Department of Health has been having hearings all over the state the last several months, and I know they're issuing a report shortly, so I would trust the experts on exactly the details of it. I would imagine that if it comes to the legislature, we'll have to broadly approve or disapprove it, and then delegate the authority to the experts to figure out the regulations.
Can tax revenue from legalized marijuana help pay for a new subway system in New York?
Well, in part, I've said that we need money for the subways, and so wherever we can get it is fine by me. But there are legitimate questions about communities that have been disproportionately impacted by the criminalization of marijuana through the years. And so I think certainly that'll be a conversation where we want to make sure that there is recompense for those communities that have been adversely affected, as well as finding resources for the things we need, like the subway.
All right, New York Senator Michael Gianaris, State Senator, you're going to have to join us again. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Senator.
My pleasure.